Hi, guys. Welcome to Alternative Self-Care. This is a show where we talk about all things alternative wellness, health, and healing, and sometimes we go a little bit woo-woo. I'm so excited today. I've got a doula on, you guys. I love this because full disclosure, I've never been pregnant, so I have no reason to ever use one, but I've always been like curious because my clients want to know about them. And I'm like, you're talking to somebody who's never had any kids here. Okay, so today's guest, we're going to be talking to Sandy, Doula Sandy. She is a certified birth doula who's here to change the world for the better, one healed birth at a time. I love that, Sandy. Oh my God.
Thank you.
I love it. Can I start with a story?
Yes.
Okay, so first time I know anything about a doula was my aunt's a doctor, and my other aunt just had a kid. Well, it was a long time ago. Let's be honest. I'm embarrassed to admit how long ago. Anyway, but my aunt was there at the birth, not as the doctor delivering the baby, but as the coach, helping
Nice.
helping her sister-in-law, go through the process. She wasn't there to, she wasn't at the business end. But it was the first time I'd heard that word doula. She's like, I was the doula. Like, aren't you a doctor? She's like, yeah. Well, we can be both. You can be both. I know that you're not a doctor, Sandy. So tell us, what does a doula do?
That is the best question to ask, actually, because so I'm a birth doula, and a birth doula definitely helps. I'm an assistant to labor, but I look at it more as like a step off. I want to help through pregnancy and labor and delivery. But there's also such a thing as a postpartum doula, and the postpartum doula is the assistant, and the guide for the postpartum state.
So is that the one that tells you about, because I know some people have trouble with the milk initially,
Yes, they can.
lactation.
Yes, but a postpartum doula is really like centered around, just like me as a birth doula, around the person who just had the baby, supporting that person so that they can then turn around and take care of their baby. And whether that is, keeping her house so that her mind can let go of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's really centered around taking care of her and how she moves through the world.
Interesting. I never would have thought of that as being a thing.
Yeah, oh yeah. And for me, as the birth doula, I'm there to take care of, that person who's having the baby is the star of the show. But whoever they have in their space, I'm also taking care of them because it takes something off of their mind.
Interesting. Are you also doing crowd control? Like, I really don't want Auntie Minnie around because she's crazy.
I absolutely do crowd control. Sometimes if I'm like, "Oh, you have to go." Yeah, I'll be the one who says that. Sure.
So you'd be like,
And
I'm sorry, Auntie.
just as important as what I do, it's also important to know what I don't do. And that
Oh.
is, I am non-medical, not clinical. I do not do anything outside of my lane, which is emotional, physical, and informational support for the person who's having the baby and the people around them.
Oh, interesting. It's kind of like, I almost sounds like a high-powered executive assistant in some ways.
Exactly.
Mixed with a
Exactly. I
counselor.
am the show.
I love that. Okay, so tell me the difference between a midwife and a doula, and can you have both?
Absolutely. So yes, thank you. A lot of people who go, "Oh, you're a doula? Oh, so you're like a midwife." And no,
That
I'm
was my
not a
first thought.
midwife. The midwife is medical, right? She is allowed, or they are allowed to actually, do medical things, take your blood pressure, check your cervix, catch a baby. I do none of those things, but we work very well together because both of our mindsets are, how are we going to make this an empowered and positive birth experience for the people who are having it, as they define it, not by our
Interesting.
definitions.
Interesting, because I think about the birth experiences that were happening in the 50s and 60s. I mean, some of us are product of that. I'm dating myself here, but I was born in the 70s, and my mom was telling me, like they gave us drugs, and I was unconscious most of the time.
Oh, the change in the birth world, it could not be more significant than it is right now. My dad was in a waiting room smoking a cigarette in a hospital.
Sounds about right. Mad Men.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
insane. And so now we have, people who want their male partners to come in and act like a doula, despite the fact that we've given them absolutely no training on that. And so that is, again, where I step in. I can actually lift up him in his position and how she feels about him, so that he can actually be there for her in a way that he has never been trained to do.
I was just thinking, I was just picturing the woman who's like, I'm going to kill you. We're never doing this again.
You know, I
She
become
doesn't
a
mean it.
therapist
She doesn't mean
sometimes,
it.
or like a mediator
Yeah.
sometimes in these births, because, like, you know, one guy was like, she can't get an epidural. She can't change her mind, Sandy. And I was like, excuse me, what? Why?
She's
Where
in
why are we?
charge.
And he was like, because she swore, you know, me to uphold this. And if I don't, she's going to make my life miserable. And I was like, how could you do this to him? What are you doing? You know what I mean? I was like, you need to lift that sworn oath off of him right now. And then she did. And then she got an epidural and felt fine.
I love it. Oh, first of all, we should probably point out, this is not to be considered medical advice, you guys. We're just having a
Absolutely
conversation.
not.
Neither one of us is a doctor. You need a doctor, call a doctor, please.
Exactly.
Please call a doctor.
Listen, I am there. I have no feelings about how a birthing person decides to move through their experience. What I want to do is support them in those decisions. So choice to me is everything. If you want to have an unmedicated birth, I am going to bring blood, sweat, and tears into that space to do everything I can to distract and create comfort measures that will help you get through each and every contraction. But on the flip side of that, you know, I always ask clients to please hold space to change your mind, because we are not the ones experiencing that pain. And if you're at the end of your story with that, or if you're a car with no gas in the tank, then hold space to change your mind so that you can then have a different experience. And that really is all it is.
I love what you're saying, because I've heard plenty of women who are like, yeah, I was going to do the whole natural thing and I was going to eat the placenta. And at the end of the day, they were like, give me the drugs, give me all the good stuff, all of it.
Right. And the thing is too, is that the language that we use surrounding birth is it can be so devastating in some places. Natural, the word natural right there. Like, there is no unnatural birth.
That's
no
true.
matter what
That's
room you have your baby in, and no matter what orifice that baby comes out of, there's no unnatural birth. And so what I always have to kind of like course correct on is, do you mean unmedicated? And they're like, oh yeah, unmedicated. And I was like, yeah, because the person who has placenta previa, for example, where the placenta is actually blocking the exit, they don't have the choice. They're having a cesarean birth. How unfair is it for her to feel like, well, I didn't have the baby naturally? Of course you did. You delivered your baby and someone else put their hands on it to help.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't that the way life is anyway? When at some point in your life, somebody's going to put hands on you to help you heal and get maybe if you have your appendix out, nobody says, oh, well, we got to do this the natural. No, if you're about to, unalive yourself by not having your appendix out, you're going to just get the thing. But
exactly. And the thing is that for doulas, the evidence is there. The evidence-based research is in. Fewer medical interventions, more positive birth experiences, fewer C-sections. And that's just the basic research that they've done. There's so much more. And that's what my practice, is all about. When I was working at UCSD, I was, showing up as they were laboring. They would come in and they'd say, I would like a doula, and they're already in labor. And I would, because of who I am, I could just go in and be like, yeah, let's be best friends. I'm going to help you. Let's go. But once I really started getting into it, and after so many births, I realized if I could have just had them a little bit sooner, you know what I mean? And so my practice now is more pregnancy focused as opposed to labor focused, because it seems like here in America, what we do is someone goes, oh, I think I'm pregnant. And they go in and they confirm it at the hospital. The hospital plugs in some magical date based on the very first day of her last period. And that's all it's based on. And then they smack them on the booty and say, see you in 9 months. And what about the 9 months? You know what I mean? So that's where I come in.
Oh, don't forget, they sell them some vitamins too.
They sell them some vitamins. You know exactly. And the thing is that let's start with the date. Let's start with the estimated due date. At some space, it goes from an estimated due date to 36 and 2 or 37 and 9, and 5. And I'm like, how did we get to that kind of specificity if it was an estimated due date 10 minutes ago? But all of this language wears on the person who's
Yeah,
creating
I've
that
heard that.
version.
I've heard that.
It's insane.
Yeah, I've heard that a million times. Like, oh my God, I just kept the date was like in my mind. And I didn't realize, I didn't realize it was just kind of a pulled it right out of the air kind of date. That's
Well,
interesting.
and then we use words like early and late, you know what I mean? And it just all natural. And it just all becomes so, I don't think that we
Huh.
have realized how much those words mean to the person who's creating the life.
Yeah, I love what you're saying because we don't seem to be advocates enough for women and their experiences because this is something that men don't have, and then to have somebody who like me, I've never been pregnant. I imagine if I had hired someone like you, I could hear okay, around the 4th month, this is what to expect. Around the 6th month, this is what to expect. Around the 7th month, you're going to want to kill your husband. I mean, like all of these things that would be really helpful to know.
Well, and I got to be honest, for me, when people are like, oh, you're a doula, do you just do like bathtub births and
I've heard
and
that.
like,
I'm like,
you help
does
people
anybody
have birth
actually get
behind the
that?
tree? And I'm all, well, I worked at UCSD, so let's start there. But
It's
also,
a nice place.
what I do is such practical magic because it's like, I'm going to remind you to drink water. I'm going to remind you to breathe. I'm going to move your body around because you would not believe how in the space of pain, we forget to do all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as much as I would love to be like, I am a magical being, by the way.
Yes,
But
but
as much as I would
there's no
love
question saying
to believe, like to say that I'm doing some kind of thing that nobody else has access to do, it's not true. I'm literally like, it's the most practical magic.
I
And
love what
I
you're saying too,
love it.
because a lot of us would have a girlfriend there, if the partner wasn't in the faith. I mean, we both have lived in San Diego where there's a lot of military and a lot of, absentee spouses. They're off in the Persian Gulf. And they've got a girlfriend there, like helping them. Can you just talk about, is that kind of one of the things that you do? You're kind of the girlfriend?
Yes. I mean, a lot of times, let's be honest, because of my age versus theirs, a lot of times it's even maternal.
Oh, I like that.
There's a lot of unhealed,
You think?
unhealed humans out there right now who they're watching Instagram and they're on TikTok and they're seeing someone else's experience and that's the experience that they want. And they don't have that partner and they don't have that bestie, they don't have that mom. And so the thing is that I try to show up how they need. And that's something that is
That's
just
good. Yeah.
my personal brilliance is that I see need and I answer to it. I go straight into it and I want to get to it. I want to address it. And so what I end up doing a lot of times is very kind of therapeutic, is letting them say the thing that in some other spaces they couldn't say, or feel the way that they couldn't feel in other spaces. And I ask everyone in that space with us to have thick skin and say, she's allowed to say and do whatever she's allowed to say and do, because, there's no kind of more moment for me is, a husband who's never seen or heard certain things come out of his spouse's mouth. And I'm like, yeah, that's birth. Let's get into it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not pretty all the time. It's raw, wet, and messy. And it's meant to be primal, and I one of the very first things I ask my clients, please say one thank you, one please, and one sorry. And then that's it. Because that politeness is kept up here in the prefrontal cortex. And I want you back here in the midbrain, the more primal kind of instinctual self.
Oh, right. I love what you're saying because that you said it earlier about it being a natural experience. There's nothing more natural, nothing more primal than birth. I also can't imagine that there's anything more emotional in the world than a birth experience or being a conduit for a soul coming into the world through your physical body. Tell me about, there was something when I was a kid, we heard about Lamaze. Is that still a thing?
Lamaze is still a thing, and I support any group or community that supports helping women learn how to feed from their chest.
Okay.
So and to breathe through. But again, Lamaze is really great for for labor focus,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And the thing is that it seems like we've almost kind of ignored the fact that what took place to get to labor is a blip. Labor is a blip. And we spend so much of our CPU focused on what that blip is going to look like that we almost forget that the 9 months of stitching together someone's central nervous system, their adrenals, you know what I mean? Everything that makes us capable, and so what I like to do is focus more on her and what she's going through during that pregnancy space.
So when I think of a doula, and I lived in a fairly affluent community, and so not to brag, right? But I always assumed in Encinitas, California, is pretty. I'm not there anymore, but you guys, there's a lot of women with some money. So I assumed that this is something that would just be trad wife, or maybe a particular religious group would be into. Tell me, is that the case, or am I just kind of like, that's just what I think would be true?
Understand where you're going with that. So the thing is that it's the trad wife thing, right? So doula is the oldest profession.
Okay.
As soon as we decided to stand upright and push babies out of our vaginas, there was someone there by their side saying, drink this water, move your body, let me hold you, let's move, let's drink, breathe. And so it's something that's circling back that
interesting.
feels, like part of that whole kind of trad wife movement.
Yeah.
When in fact, what I think is that every single person deserves a doula, but there is a representation kind of thing that we also need to address. The Black doula representation, we need so many more Black doulas because the disparity between white and Black maternal death and infant death is so unacceptable. So Black representation, we need more LGBTQIA representation.
100%.
Am I happy to work with every community? Absolutely. But I understand the need and the importance for the representation. So
I love that I'm sorry, I appreciate that you said that, because that's true for hypnotherapy too. There's not enough Hispanic hypnotherapists who can speak Spanish to people.
Right.
There's not enough women or men of color doing this work. And it's like, feels weird as a white person to say, there's just not enough of you guys. Cause
because look at how we've created, disparity on every level, right? I mean, it's systemic, right? And so, what I would like to do is I've already got the domain kind of working. I want to start a doula training program that doesn't have anything to do with the marketing, because that's the certified doula program that I went through. Most of it was about how to market yourself and how to start your own business and how to get a website going. Not real. I mean, they did tell you how to be a doula also, but I spent a lot of money on how to be like a business person. I want to train people how to be a doula. And so, my website's going to be Practical Magic Doula Services.
Oh my God. Okay. So we're going to get that, because I'll put that in the comments. It's interesting because you bring up something that to me has always been a complaint with hypnotherapy as well. Cause I've worked in that industry for a long time. In hypnotherapy, the complaint is that we learn how to be a hypnotherapist, but we don't learn how to be a business owner. But you're saying that in the school that you went to, you learned how to be a business owner, but not as much of.
Exactly. I mean, I learned more at the UCSD 2-day doula on-hand training than I did in the, pace yourself, ideally 10-week course of a certified doula program.
Interesting. Well, that's good for people to know, because go try and find a hands-on training.
Yes, exactly. I would argue the only problem that now we're looking at, there's been a new issue created, is that insurance companies are now starting to get involved, and they're starting to cover doulas.
They are?
Yeah, but of
All
course
kinds of
on
ways that
their
can go badly.
terms, with all of their dumb, arbitrary rules, and some of them only allow certified doulas. And so the problem with that, though, is that who's the certifying body, and why do you get to be the certifying body? Because you're not any more governed by any regulating body than I am.
Yeah, let's get clear about that, because I know I already see the person in the comments going, yes, but where did you guys go to school? Let's talk about who certifies, what's the governing body, what is the rules like? Because I'll full disclosure, in the hypnotherapy, there is no central governing body.
Right.
And there are some
Neither for
states.
doulas.
Okay, so that's what I want to get clear about, because it's like people don't always realize that, and they're always surprised, when something happens.
Yeah. So there are a couple of like long-standing doula organizations. One is DONA, Doulas of North America. One is To Labor. Another is I think it's called Kappa. And because they've been around for a long time, there's a lot of insurance companies that are like, we need you to be certified through them. And then they charge an extraordinary amount of money to become a certified doula. And the thing is that there's nobody governing them. They're not regulated by any kind of, they're an organization that created themselves. You and I can right now create our own doula organization and start training people.
We could do hypnotherapy too.
Right? Come on. Like, it would be
dub
brilliant.
thee certified hypnotherapist.
Exactly. I mean, that's all they're doing. And so after I spent a bunch of money, you know what I mean? So all I'm saying is that, I became a certified doula only because I know that some people require some little, arbitrary piece of paper that says, yes, I did the thing, and
I dub thee.
Yes, but it's not a license. It's only a certificate. And arguably, at my age, people are like, oh, of course you're a doula, because you're like, like a grandma, and you're like, this like crone. And by the way, that is not a diss if they thought it was, because I love my crone era. You're welcome. But I also,
you're awesome.
But I also know too that like a 22-year-old student at UCSD right now, it can be one of the best doulas you've ever met. She's never been pregnant. She's only been to a handful of births, but there is something inside of the doula. Our love language is being in the service of, and so it really doesn't, there's no look, or there's no like archetype for the doula. It's just that person who has that natural kind of like, let me be there for you. Let me help you. Let me do this and with you, and let me support whatever you're going through.
I love what you're saying too, because as you guys know I'm a psychic reader as well as a hypnotherapist, but when I see it intuitively, I see somebody with a lot of yellow in their aura. That's just how it appears to me, how the guides show it to me. And so when I see that, I'm like, this person's naturally a healer. What thing are they going to do as their healing practice? Because it can be, it can be a nurse, it could be a doctor, it could be a doula. I love what you're saying, because so having said all of that, so let's just assume that I'm pregnant. It's not physically possible, whatever. And I'm like trying to find somebody who's good. How do I do that? Because like you said, it's not like I can go and say, okay, well, they got the 15 certifications. Well, now I know they spent $1 million for that. How do they find somebody good?
That is an excellent question. One of the first things that you have to kind of determine is, can you afford that? I don't want to start that. Let me say
that. Well, it's fair. We want to know how much things cost.
Does your insurance cover a doula? That would be my first question, because the thing is that it's hard for people to go, yeah, let me hire a doula who doesn't, take anybody's insurance. And then they're like, yeah, that's $3,000. And not everyone has $3,000 sitting around. So
oops. Hey guys, sorry about that. We had some technical issues. Anyway, we were talking about the cost. You were saying that, something that costs $3,000, nobody has $3,000. The first step would be to figure out if your insurance will pay for any of it, What's the next step?
If your insurance company does offer doula coverage, ask them for, what is going to be required for that doula to be
Oh, that's a good
credentialed,
question. Yep.
right? Because the thing is that this company over here has this list. This company over here says, "Oh, just send us their, a picture of," you know what I mean? It's the wild, wild west out here with insurance companies and their coverages. Some of them are going to require that your doula is certified by one of these three, kind of long-standing bodies, these doula associations. If you're like, hey, listen, I don't want to use someone that they made me choose. I want to choose because I want to do it based on connection and energetic feelings and all the gushy stuff that we love. Then, also remember that it's considered a medical expense federally. So if you can come up with the money, you can then you consider it a medical expense, when you file your taxes the following year.
Also, probably the flexible spending account, if you have one of those.
And so for me, I allow like payment plans, right?
Okay.
So that if I charge $2,400, then, but you called me at week, 16, I'm going to see you every week and you can just make payments. I only request that the final payment is made before I go on call for you 2 weeks in advance. And so that, that in and of itself is the problem. I personally, my mission is that every single person who wants a doula should have one, and it should not be cost prohibitive. But I am only one person who still has to sleep and eat and put a roof over my head. And so you're going to see a cost disparity across the board.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I'm the same way. I wish that things weren't so, at least in the hypnotherapy world, like I can talk about that. It's money motivated, but also it can be limiting to prohibitive to some groups. Some people, just don't ever get to see a hypnotherapist.
And I would argue that they need it the most.
I know. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the cost, because obviously you're from California. I'm from California. I'm not there. I moved to Portland, but like,
which I love.
We know the things in California and New York are going to be more expensive. Can you have some idea how much this might cost in, let's say, Arkansas or like anywhere? Do you know?
So I don't. So the reason why is because it's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Some doulas take on every person that calls them, and and then they have backups. And so, the standard doula model right now, as it stands, is 2 prenatals, the birth, and then 2 postpartums. And those are appointments. For me, I'm offering to meet every single week, right? So that we can do body work. I can offer you a massage. We can do food prep. We can do, talk about nutrition. We can go shopping together. We can go walk together. I offer a larger scale and a broader kind of scale of services, because that's what I want to do. That's me.
And you're in San Diego.
For those of you, and I'm in San Diego, and I'm not coming for anyone else's business who does the 2 prenatals, the birth, and the postpartum. Good for you. But with that, like I said, I've seen prices anywhere from, $1,000 to $3,000 for that. And, it's just, I don't know what other states are even coming up with, because in California, it is more expensive to work here.
Oh yeah.
But we're also getting paid higher wages.
Yeah, that's true.
On some level, there is that. So of course, in California, I'm probably going to charge more than if I were seeing you in Arkansas.
Yeah, of course, your rent would be more in California than it is in Arkansas.
Oh yeah, the rent I'm paying is.
I know, and a car and the gas, and yes, yeah, I know, yeah. I know. I appreciate that.
So again, that's why I kind of offer more services for my fee, because I understand that, and that's why I take payment, because I understand that what you need, and I don't want it to kill you. I don't want it to be a financial burden at the level that it has started to become.
You're bringing up something interesting that I thought I'm going to get your comment on this. One thing that's unique about hypnotherapy is I was seeing a lot of clients that really didn't need me, that like, And I thought, I'm like, why does they keep coming back? I mean, it's, we've already worked on this. Like this problem's gone. Right. And I realized that this appointment was like the only time where a conversation got to be about them. That's kind of what, like, when it finally hit me that, you know what, they just want to have a one-sided conversation. If they call a girlfriend, it's going to go back and forth. I know, I dated the same guy. Blah, blah, blah. Like,
that is, you just made my brain melt. Like, I swear that is probably, because I have seen the shift when I meet someone and they interview me and I start talking and like focusing solely on the person who is having the baby.
yeah.
And they feel seen and heard and they understand that they are the most important aspect of this entire journey.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, what? You know what I mean? Like, and it excites them.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm so, I watch them go from anxious and nervous and scared and fearful to, I'm so excited now, because I mean, I don't know that they've ever been the thing that is the most important subject of this sentence. You know what I mean?
I love it. The main character in the play.
Yes.
I love that you're providing that experience. And I love that you're providing it on a weekly basis to somebody who, especially if it's their first kid and they're scared.
Oh yeah. And by the way, especially if there's their first kid, every kid is their first kid. So here's something I have to remind all of my clients. And I have a really funny story. I have to remind them that this is your first experience with this baby. So we might as well. And I know that humans learn from experience. But this is one of those spaces where I'm going to ask you to act like this is your very first time having this baby, because it is.
Interesting.
And the funny story I have is that when I was working at UCSD, I was called in to assist a woman who was going to have her very first cesarean birth, and it was baby number 10.
Oh my God, why did she do that to herself?
And I was just like, oh, okay, let's go. So I went in there and fully prepared to go into the OR with her and help her still find her own magic, her own power, all of the things. And they did the ultrasound, and that baby flipped and went back down to head down first. So she didn't need to have a cesarean C-section anymore. And then he took 27 hours.
Of course he did, because why wouldn't he? And she's going to be telling that story till he dies.
I tell that story. It's not even my story, and I tell that story because to me, it is almost like the period at the end of the sentence of, please know that you are only a part of how this story is going to go. I'm going to be there for that part. Everyone else is looking at the baby. I'm there for the person who created the baby.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. So let's talk about this for one, we're going to wrap up here in a second, but I do want to ask you about, do doulas specialize? Because I imagine that I'm just, humor me for my lack of my ignorance, you guys, on religious beliefs, but let's assume that you're like Amish, or you're Latter-day Saints. Maybe you might have different religious beliefs around the birth experience. I might be wrong. I don't know. Are there people that specialize in like one community or another?
Well, I imagine yes. So I would definitely imagine in the Amish community, Amish people.
Probably Amish. Yes. Probably yes.
Okay, But it is interesting that you bring it up, because I have whatever my beliefs are don't matter.
Yep.
And so I have had people ask me like, hey, I'm very faith-based. I want scripture read. I want this done. And there's a part of them that wants to know if I also align exactly like that. And I am just very good at making it clear that whatever I believe doesn't matter. I'm only here to support you and your belief and how you define all of this. So if you, and the reason why they want to know is because they like me. As soon as they meet me and they start to interview me, they're like, oh, please don't let her be like a Satan worshiper,
So Sandy's not a Satan worshiper.
Right.
I don't know why I feel like I needed to say that.
I'm not, but it doesn't even matter what, you know what I mean? Because it's all about them. And as soon as they hear that and they realize that all I'm going to do is lift up what you already, how you move through the world and however that looks to you, they're like, all right, you're in. Let's go.
I love that you brought that up because I'm going to throw in a little, make this about me again. But like, as a hypnotherapist, I would get people asking questions about politics. And I have a YouTube channel now, another YouTube channel, you guys, where I do talk about it. But generally, I wouldn't answer those questions because I would say, look, as soon as I start talking about what I am, the session becomes about me, and it's not. It's about you. You know,
exactly.
You're going to start censoring. You're going to start, shifting. I don't care what you
and
are.
You're going to wonder, like, how did you miss? Like, you already feel connected to me. How did and now you're worried about the things that don't matter, right? Because I'm not bringing in. As soon as I walk through that door, everything I was going through, and by the way, I'm a human, so I'm going through all the things, but I immediately let it go.
Yeah.
And now it's about them. And I ask everybody in that space, medical or otherwise, to join me in that purpose. And they do. I create an environment where even medical people will come in and be like, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful in here. It sounds good. It's like a spa. And they immediately bring their energy down too. Right. And that's all we're doing. We're asking to make it all about this person.
I love that. That's such a beautiful thing. So my final question is, why did anybody do this job? I mean, like you're not at the business end of the
Well, let me tell you, there is not a doula that's like, oh, hey, I became a self-made millionaire.
Right.
Because you're only
and if there is,
person.
don't hire that person.
You can only take on so much, you know what I mean? Because you might also have people who in your life, you might be married, you might have kids, you have to also run your own life. And people ask me all the time, how do you do it? Well, I just live my life. And when someone says, it's time, let's go, you know what I mean? But every week I just meet with my clients. And the reason why we do it is because in a deep, deep way, I believe that if we take care of the person who's having the baby, we can heal everything, that we can have a more compassionate, kind, empathetic world. But it starts with the person having the baby.
I love that. Passing the love on to the next generation. When I was a kid as a hypnotherapist, we do a lot of like regression. And I just was thinking about being regressed to my birth experience. And, I remember being upside down and being hit on the butt. And I'm like, I'm not sure that they do that anymore. I know that was like to clear the lungs, but like, imagine if I had been welcomed into the world, into, loving arms, I might've had a different perspective. Instead, my first experience was being cold and feeling physically uncomfortable and hit. Right? Yeah.
And I go up to the baby and in the lowest, most dulcet resonant tone I can absolutely muster, welcome to the earth side, little one. And they literally look over at me. Aww. The parents usually lose their mind. They're like, does the baby already know Sandy? And it's just because I know what they've heard in the womb this whole time. Aww. And I just want them to hear it on the outside.
Aww. And it's just, what a sweet message. Let's end on that. Oh my God. That's so beautiful. So Sandy, how could people, if they want to hire you, how do they find you? I'm going to put your contact information in the other thing, but people like to hear it. So where can you find you?
Well, my website is Doula This Together. My business is Let's Doula This Together, but I didn't want to put let's in. You can't even put an apostrophe in. So I was like,
right, I know.
So it's just doulathistogether.com. I'm on Instagram as Let's Doula This Together. I'm on TikTok as Let's Doula This Together. I'm on Facebook as Let's Doula This Together. And I have to warn you that I'm terrible at creating content on all those spaces because I'm very busy as a doula. I
love it. Well, I mean, we wouldn't.
Oh, and I also have Salt and Pepper doulas with my amazing, beautiful Black doula partner, Perry Grant, who has Pamper Me Mama. Pamper Me Mommy.
Well, we wouldn't want to hire somebody who wasn't busy anyway, because we know that means that, may not be the best choice. So Sandy, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. And thank you guys for liking and subscribing. That means a lot to us. And it also makes it so that people get to see this content more, particularly if you have any questions for Sandy. If you put them in the comments, then maybe she'll see them. Maybe she'll answer them. I don't know.
I
Maybe.
will absolutely answer them. And I can't thank you enough for inviting me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Stick around. Thank you guys and appreciate you guys. And I'll see you again soon. Okay. Bye-bye. Love you guys. Thank you so much.